there definitely has been some proven misinformation put out there. I mean,
Whoa.
for example, this was all over, and like Senator Cruz tweeted it out and you probably saw it, like the picture of them in the helicopter. I don't know if it was a Chinook. I don't know what type of helicopter. And Ted Cruz is like, oh, they're hanging, Americans from helicopters.
Oh, that was completely.
And it was the guy was on a harness, and it was them basically celebrating with a guy on the helicopter. But I mean, these politicians, they don't fact check anything before they put it out.
There's an extreme amount of disinformation. A lot of Photoshop photos were going around in the beginning, and people were saying, I remember there was this one picture of this woman. She was, in a burqa, black burqa, and she was by a man, and she was like chained to this guy. And they were saying, oh, this under the Taliban. This wife is chained to her husband, walking behind. Well, it takes a quick reverse image search, and you see, well, A, that's a photo from Iraq in 2003, and B, the chain has been photoshopped. So people had a lot of interest in kind of perpetuating this narrative. And I would even say, people hate me for saying this, but it's the truth, is that despite sort of the mass hysteria, there was no kind of mass slaughter in the streets. The Taliban was not, I'm sure there were certainly isolated cases, but it was very much the exception, not the rule for those acts of retaliation. Taliban was not dragging people out of their homes. The Taliban was not really, they had to get a warrant to enter homes. So a lot of this was sort of taken out of context, and I think the media that wasn't in Afghanistan struggled to get their heads around the idea that it wasn't an insurgency anymore, that from overnight, it literally had gone from an insurgency into something of a group that was trying to be a functioning government. And there was a big shift with that. So I think that, that's sort of that in sort of saying that truth, people somehow think you're defending the Taliban. And that's not the case at all. They do terrible things, but it's also important to present the reality, as it is, because I think if I had never been there and I was just sitting and reading Twitter, I would be like, oh my goodness, like this is genocides in the street. It just wasn't the case. Obviously, I wouldn't have been able to be there working if, of course, if I felt that I was going to get gunned down, walking outside of my house. And the Taliban were my neighbors, they were next door. They were everywhere. It wasn't like they were suddenly, hiding in little pockets. They were as main sort of stream as any other Afghan you would encounter.